Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center, and welcome to Knife AQ number 28, the knife series where I answer all your questions, whether they're sharp or dull. Fun stuff, talking about this week, I guess the biggest thing is what makes the perfect knife? Get into that question and some more right after this. Thank you everyone who's been submitting your questions in the comments section for this series. If you want a chance to get one of your own questions answered, you know the drill. Just drop them in the comments below and we're gonna comb through and pick out a few to answer in future installments. First one though is a redux from last week. We had a gentleman, Mr. David Stanton, asking us about cyberpunk knives. So I showed him a steampunk knife because my brain farted. So we're back with a repeat. I've got some cyberpunk questions to answer. Mr. David Stanton, any suggestions on a future cyberpunkish folder that could fit in with my other futuristic EDC items? I prefer carbon fiber scales, but I'm willing to branch out. Cool, yes, I have a few. None of them with carbon fiber, just because when I'm thinking cyberpunk, comparing it to the knives we have with carbon fiber, none of them really did it for me. So here's the branch out for you. First one on the premium side, and then I've got two more budget options. The KnifeCenter double helix is the first thing that came to mind when I actually stopped thinking about steampunk. See, I can't even keep it straight now. You're still doing it. KnifeCenter double helix, these are awesome. They come in about $285, S35 VN blade, about 3.3 inches, and a very definitive or very unique, I hate that phrase. It's either unique or it's not, right? Can't be degrees of unique. It's interesting. Man, we're getting off the rails early here.
Yeah, this is gonna be a fun edit.
It's a great lock, you guys, and it's unique. Essentially, it's kind of like a crossbar lock. Well, it is a crossbar lock, but it's very different from Benchmade's Axis lock. For one thing, the lock bar is directly behind the pivot instead of higher up. And instead of having like Omega type springs on the inside, you've got springs here on the outside of the handle. Maybe a little less practical and a little more prone to like dirt or grit, although easier to clean out than an internal spring. However, that kind of goes hand in hand a little bit, I think, with what I think of when I think of cyberpunk. You go for that little bit of kind of futuristic over complexity. Not that this is overly complex, but you take my meaning. But it works, actually I was about to say it works just like any other crossbar lock, but that's not true. You can do the flick open and close, just like any other, but what this does that other crossbar locks don't is when it's in the closed position, it's actually locked into place. You're not gonna be able to pull that blade out until you pull the lock bar back. And then it really is a wrist flick open and close. As you can see, there's not a lot of blade sticking out to do any kind of thumb opening. There's no flipper, so you're gonna be using some centrifugal wrist force to launch that blade out. But a really cool knife, like I said, S35 VN, titanium handles. This is the kind of most cyberpunkish colorway that we've got with the kind of blue titanium, has a little bit of purple in it, but there's some like bronzes and blacks as well, I think, as well as a plain stone washed titanium. Really cool knife, that thing. And I think that one of the Wii's earlier releases and kind of helped put them on the map a little bit. Been a little bit overshadowed by some newer stuff, but still worth a look. As for some budget options, the Kershaw Parsec is a really nice one. Comes in about $42. We've got an 8CR stainless blade here, about 3 inches, and the blade and the stainless steel frame are PVD coated, but you've got some really nice futuristic looking accents there on the handle and on the pivot. And this is not a speed-safe assisted opener. As you can see, there was no resistance on the close there. We've got KVT bearings in the pivot. Really nice crisp action. Actually, if I'm remembering correctly, this one had some pretty good lighter flick action as well. Yeah, I like that. And then here on the end, looks kind of like a bottle opener, but isn't really. Maybe a missed opportunity there. But definitely a cool futuristic looking knife with a very utility driven blade shape on it. That modified Wharncliffe, yeah, we'll call it a modified Wharncliffe, is gonna be really nice, gonna get some good cuts in day to day, and you got that nice tip to work with as well. For one more, again on the budget side, we've got one of CRKT's new releases this year. This is the NERC tie flipper, coming in about 39 bucks. And previous versions of this knife came in a fair bit more expensive, a bit over 80 bucks, but they managed to simplify the construction of the handle here. Instead of having two different layers, they've got like the green and the brushed pattern here is all the same piece. The painted section is just kind of recessed a little bit, so you get the same effect while minimizing their manufacturing cost and minimizing the cost to you guys as well. But very futuristic, very cyberpunkish looking handle to it. The blade on this, bit over 3 inches, and we are 8CR series stainless on this guy as well. More of a conventional type of blade shape than the modified Wharncliffe of that Kershaw. Got the drop point with a little bit of recurve, which looks quite nice. And as far as the action on this guy, it closes up like a lockback. As you can see there, it's a tail end lock release, but because it's kind of like a lockback, but they call this the Klecker lock, invented by Glenn Klecker. It operates kind of along a similar concept, or about the same concept as a lock back, but the back spring is split. It's carried across two sides there, and as such, you can actually fit a flipper tab through there, which you can't really do too much on most traditional lockbacks. You also get a little bit of detent there provided by the lock bar itself, and it's going to flip open quite nicely. Doesn't have a nice solid thwack like a lot of flippers do, because it's kind of the sound is kind of softened by the nature of the locking mechanism, but it certainly works very nicely. Pocket clip, right side tip up only in this case, but very, very cool knife. All right, next question is from Teddy Roosevelt with 4 O's. Hey DCA, I'm a big fan of Spyderco's CQI. That's their constant quality improvement, where they're constantly iterating their designs and making them better, a little bit better piece by piece as the generation continues. Says, I'm a big fan of Spyderco's CQI, but what knives have you encountered that you think are pretty much impossible to improve upon? Yeah, you're asking, is there a perfect knife out there? And I kind of think just the answer's got to be a blanket no. You can talk about classic patterns like old school trappers or old school like Stockmans and stuff like that. And I could say, yeah, like those can't be improved upon, but everybody has their own little spin on it. And everybody's spin probably has a little bit something that can be done maybe a little bit better or a little bit differently. That's just the nature of being mankind. Like, we're always trying to improve, and we're not going to stop even on mankind's oldest tool. I did happen to look over as I was reading this question though, and see this old hickory 7-inch butcher knife out here. Not much you could do to improve that, but even then you get to things like fit and finish or grind angles, that sort of thing. There's always something you could do, but that might be pretty close. But I'm going to throw it to you guys out there. Obviously, I'm setting the stage and saying there's no perfect knife, but for folks out there, what's your answer to Teddy's question here? What are the knives out there that you think have pretty much nailed it, and there's not much you can do to really improve it? Looking forward to hearing what you folks have to say. All right, next question comes from Rick Verkujian. Hi DCA, I work in a warehouse, and my Spyderco Manix 2, which I love, had some trouble cutting some tough straps. I switched to the Kershaw CQC9 with a slight recurve, but I kind of missed the acute tip. We'll leave a picture of that knife up here in the corner. It's got a kind of a drop point profile with the recurve. Is there maybe a form of a Wharncliffe recurve style blade that you know of? If not, what would be the next best thing to cut through thick plastic straps and have a precise tip to cut through packaging without damaging paperwork or products? Yeah, I mean, Wharncliffe recurve is a Hawkbill blade shape. Most commonly found on karambits like this. This is the Cold Steel Tiger Claw, comes in about 120. CTS XHP blade steel here, so you got real high performance steel. G10 for the handles, triad lock for a lot of strength. And you can get this in a full serrated like this or a plain edge, but I kind of think full serrated might be the better bet for you, because not only with a blade shape like this can you get in under a pallet strap, but you're going to have the teeth of the serrations are going to grab onto that quite nicely. Sometimes pallet straps can be a little slippery on a highly sharpened plain edge. So this is gonna be good for getting in there and kind of ripping through those straps. Now, as for the precise tip work, there's plenty of girth here, plenty of width on this particular blade where you can definitely choke up. Obviously be very, very careful when holding the knife, not from the blade, or not from the handle itself, but you can definitely choke up there and really finely control that tip so you're not going too deep into whatever you're cutting. One thing I like to do a lot, just kind of a box opening tip, a lot of folks will take the cardboard box and they'll go like straight down and try to cut the tape that way. I'll actually, after you cut the side straps and you can lift the flaps up, I like to come in a little bit on the side. So instead of cutting straight down, you're cutting it kind of into the corrugated cardboard on the side of the flap. Much, much easier to do without damaging whatever's inside. But this could be a good option. This might be a little bit too tactical for you, however. So another one, actually the thing I thought of first is the Spyderco Matriarch. Still a bit bigger, but it's a little more pocket friendly. The handle on this is like the Endura, the Spyderco Endura. This knife comes in about 115 and still a recurved blade shape, but the way Spyderco does it on this knife, you do have a bit of belly here. So it's kind of a little bit of a blend, kind of the best of both worlds sort of thing. This also full serrated. You can't get this in plain edge right now, VG10 steel. But the other reason I thought this, first of all, is you've got the Emerson Wave opener on this knife. So if you are, if you're working, you've got a big box, maybe you're needing to stabilize something and you go to cut, it's very easy to pull a knife out and open it one-handed with your thumb, but to have that extra wave opener there where it catches your pocket and rotates open as you draw, can't hurt. It's certainly just kind of adds to the utility of this knife. So I would definitely check this version out. Plenty of handle length there, plenty of traction, but it's nice and lightweight. So if you're on your feet all day, it's just a little bit, slightly fewer ounces to schlep around. 4-position pocket clip so you can carry it however you want, and then easy enough to close one-handed as well. That Tiger Claw from Cold Steel is going to be a bit harder. The Triad lock, for one thing, it's further back, and it's also, they tend to be a little bit stiffer than most standard lockbacks because of the way they do it inside to increase the strength of the lock. As such, that's probably going to be more of a two-hand close. Now, if both of these are a little bit too big and scary, again, in your workplace, I don't know what's going to be acceptable or not, but for a smaller option, I would definitely check out the MKM Isanzo from MKM Knives, the Maniago knife makers. This is a Jesper Vaknes design. It comes in about $85 right now. Now, these guys have an N690 blade. It's about 2¼ inches long, and kind of like that Spyderco, you got a little bit of belly here before it kind of curves down into the Hawkbill, or bird's beak as it's sometimes called. But yeah, still easy to get in underneath that strap and pull. Only plain edges available on this knife, unfortunately. If you were looking for a serrated edge, plain edges certainly will work, but I felt like serrated might be a little bit better for you. But if this is more your speed, more your size, don't discount this one just because it doesn't have that. Also, plenty of length or plenty of width up there, even for my big fingers here to choke up and really finely control that tip. And standard about 3-finger grip for me. You do have a choil there, but if you've got big fingers like me, it's going to be a little bit small. And a liner lock, synthetic handles here, so again, nice and lightweight, but it flips open nicely despite that small flipper tab. And you can even hook it on to a carabiner or something with this wide bail at the back if you wanted to. Or you can just use that nice deep carry wire pocket clip, which is reversible. Yeah, let me know what you think of these. I think they're going to be good options for you. All right, next question is from Alexander. Can you recommend me a scalpel type knife that I can leave in my tool belt bag? A pocket knife works, but I have to move around to access it when I have my tool belt out. Thanks again. For sure. Again, this is a real easy one. Something came to mind immediately, and that's the Civivi Mandate. It's a retractable utility knife with kind of a oversized X-Acto knife style of blade here. And these come in about $83. Now, part of the reason for the cost there is you've got a titanium body here with this slider that lets you retract that blade and extend it. And a pretty wide pocket clip on there as well, even though this probably won't come into play if you're keeping it in your tool belt. The other part of it is, I don't want to call this a replaceable blade folder or a replaceable blade knife, and it's more of an exchangeable blade. Because these aren't designed to actually be disposable. It does come with a few extras, so when this gets dull, you can swap it out. But do hang on to them and sharpen them up when you get home, because these are a 9CR18 MOV, which is essentially a 440C type level of performance. So you've got a decent quality steel there. It's not just something that's you use a few times and then you're going to throw away. It's actual legit blade steel on these exchangeable blades. So that's pretty cool. They feel pretty good in the hand. There's plenty of length there. You've got that tip. They dropped it just a little bit so you don't have quite like a needle-like tip, but that's going to be a little better. In heavier utility uses, you're less likely to snap that tip off. Yeah, they're just really nicely done and kind of cool. Yeah, and at $83, definitely worth a look. All right, next question is from Jim Kissel. He says, I've been wanting a knife with pocket deployment for personal defense. Only issue I have is all Emerson open/pocket deployment knives I've come across sticks out a lot from the pocket. Can you suggest a pocket deployable knife that is slim, lightweight, completely hides the knife in the pocket, but still allows for easy access? Yes, I've got two. One is not completely deep carry, but I still think you ought to check it out. This is the Artisan Cutlery Hornet. It's coming in about $59 right now. I did shorten this guy's comment just a little bit to make it easier to read, but he was asking for a not terribly expensive knife. So definitely check these guys out. D2 blades, 3 3/4 of an inch long, so plenty of length there. G10 handles, a bit of contouring going on, which is quite nice. Ball bearings in the pivot as well, and that does more than just help it flip nicely. It also, when you go to kind of pocket deploy this or wave it, can't call wave it for legal reasons, but when you do that and it grabs the pocket and flips out, there's just a really nice kind of snap as it comes out. Very satisfying. Pocket clip is folded over, not completely deep carry. You've got a little bit of handle and a little bit of this glass breaker extended pommel sticking out as well. But like I said, a little bit of radius to the G10, so it's comfortable, and you've got a lot there to grab onto, and obviously a very aggressive blade shape here, and a price point that's not gonna hurt you too much if you have to surrender this knife or you happen to lose it or damage it or something like that. Really cool. I've actually got I got one of the higher end titanium versions of this at one point, so this was one of the first things I thought of for you. Yeah, easy to carry, not completely deep carry though. For that, you might want to check out the Viper Keeper. These come in a bit more expensive, about $120, and they do have a completely deep carry wire pocket clip here. Word to note about that though is kind of the whole point of a pocket deployable knife is speed of access. This is actually going to work against you there, because the way it holds the knife completely down in there, it's going to be harder to grab onto, and it's going to be even harder to grab onto and deploy during an adrenaline dump or something like that as well. So while I'm showing you an option here, I might nudge you away from actually getting this for the reasons that you're looking for. Maybe check out that Artisan Cutlery instead. Another note about this, it's not the best flipper in the world. It's more of a kind of a slow roll thumb open. And as such, it's going to take a little more effort to actually get it to completely lock open in the pocket deployment phase as well. But this is near as what we have that's going to meet what you want. Because yeah, most Emerson deployable or Emerson style deployments are designed for tactical, so they're not going to give you that deep carry pocket clip because it works against the philosophy of the knife itself. But other than that, it's a really cool knife. It's a really cool profile here too. I really like the blade shape. Kind of the same story, 3 3/4 of an inch of D2 steel, full flat grind in this case, obviously a much more EDC friendly blade shape than the Artisan Cutlery, but it's still going to be nice and aggressive when you need it to be though. The handle here, kind of a similar story, actually similar color even too. I didn't even think about that when I grabbed these, or when I had Thomas grab them for me. Thank you, Thomas.
Hey, excuse me, sir. I grabbed those.
But micarta in this case, but again, you've got a bit of contour to it. Feels more comfortable than the Artisan Cutlery by far. It has a really nice feel in the hand, especially for any kind of EDC type of work. Yeah, I just really like that. It's got a smooth finish. I guess it's a little bit of a matte finish, but it's not raggy at all, where like real heavy matte finish can do to micarta sometimes. So I hope this kind of leads you in the right direction for what you're looking for. Yeah, check those out. All right, next question is from David McElroy. He said, "Hey DCA, my birthday's coming up and I really want a good Bowie knife in the $100 range. Prefer a leather sheath and I want to be able to put a beading on it around the farm." Sure, $100 Bowie with leather, you're talking Condor and you're talking the Condor Undertaker. These guys come in about $90. You wanted a leather sheath, there it is, you got a leather sheath. But check that bad boy out. Very kind of classically styled Bowie, whereas some Bowies these days have a bit more of a modern spin on it. This is like pure old school looks here. Bit over 10 inches of steel, 1075 I believe on this. Yeah, it usually is, but sometimes they use 1095, so just had to check real quick. About 3/16 of an inch thick, so not overly bulky, at least in the width, because you do have a fair bit of, or not at least in the thickness, you do have a fair bit of width with this shape. And just kind of a traditional coffin style handle with the 6 brass pins and your guard right there. This is like the stereotypical, like, now that's a knife comment knife. Yeah, this is what you're gonna get out of that. 1075, nice and durable. One thing to keep in mind, you do have a hollow grind on this knife, which is not going to be as tough as something like a flat grind or a convex grind on a larger knife like this, where you may be, doing some swinging, that sort of thing. So keep that in mind. If you wanted to spend a little bit over $100, there's some other good things out there, like the Condor Plan A Bowie, or even the Becker BK9, but those are decidedly more modern in the look and feel. They don't always have those leather sheaths as well, but they're going to be even tougher thanks to the grinds on those. But man, if you're looking for like old school classic Bowie with a leather sheath, yeah, check that Undertaker out. It's definitely nice and solid. Last question comes from Rafir896. Why don't you guys start carrying knives with much higher quality steels, like the surgical steels used on the knives sold on TV? Also, the knives I have were much cheaper, even though it had such a high quality steel. My grandpa told me a long time ago that if it doesn't have surgical steel printed on the blade, it ain't worth a darn. I'm not sure where to start with this one, you guys. I don't mean to laugh at you, because we all have to start somewhere, I think. But the problem with surgical steel is it's kind of nothing. There are types of steel that kind of fall under what could be considered surgical steel, but there's no real hard and fast definition. But the main quality they all tend to share in common is they're very stainless, which stainless can be a really good quality in a knife, but edge holding and toughness aren't really the top concerns for a surgical steel, which is why you don't really see it except on cheaper knives. You mentioned, the knives you have were cheaper despite having surgical steel. It's because they had surgical steel that they were cheaper. A quality knife steel does cost a bit more money because you have other characteristics like edge holding, like toughness, especially on big Bowie knives like this, that you want. Yeah, surgical steel is just a marketing term, really, and it could be just about anything. So, I don't know how to end this one.
I mean, it's kind of like someone says military grade.
I have a friend who is in the military who shies away from military grade because sometimes it's,
Sometimes it means built by the lowest bidder.
Yeah. It's a rather sour note to end the Knife AQ on today.
Well, hell, we had a big Bowie.
That made me feel better. Thanks, guys. If you want to submit your own questions for this series, again, just make sure to leave them in the comments below, and we'll find some stuff to answer for you. Hope these were helpful. If you want to get your hands on any of these knives, we'll leave links, as always, in the description to take you over to KnifeCenter.com. And as always, make sure you sign up for our Knife Rewards program, because if you're going to spend your money on one of these knives, you might as well earn some free money to spend on your next one. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center, signing off. See you next time.